Hi, good evening. My name is Janisha. Today I'm going to talk about sex selection abortion. First, what is sex selection abortion? Since 1950s, medical professionals have used ultrasound technologies to determine the sex of fetus within the womb. If conditions are favorable, it is possible to determine the sex of the fetus by the middle of the second trimester using ultrasound technology. Recently, a high reliable blood test has been developed to determine the sex of the fetus as early as 7 weeks. Some of the benefit of these tests includes it provide vital information about their well-being of fetuses. But millions of parents have used this test to select fetuses for abortion. They are one sex or the other. Female fetuses are the ones targeted based on their sex to be aborted than male fetuses. According to the Population Research Institute, since 2000, 24 million sex selection abortions occurred. Almost all have targeted female fetuses. Now I'm going to talk about cultural and economic reasons. Some preferences is deeply ingrained in Indian culture because parents, young girls are expected to provide dowry, which is an expensive proposition that many parents cannot afford. In China, a prolonged one child policy and sexism with a predominant culture encourage many parents to abort female fetuses. The natural ratio of boys to girls at birth is 105 over 100. In India, the ratio is 112 over 100, and in China, the ratio is 130 over 100. In China, there are 33 million more men than women. Eventually, this will lead to a serious social issue. And now I'm going to talk about some consequences of high sex ratio. In China and India, there will be 10 percentage to 20 percentage of young men. These men will be unable to marry in societies where marriage is regarded as ritually universal. Where there's a shortage of women in the marriage market, women have the opportunity to marry up, inevitably leaving the least desirable men with no marriage prospects. There are some assumptions have been made about the effects of male surplus on these men who are unable to marry. These are some assumptions. First, it has been assumed that the lack of opportunity to fulfill traditional expectation of marrying and having children will result in low self-esteem and increased psychological difficulties among young men. It is also has been assumed that combination of psychological vulnerability and sexual frustration may lead to aggression and violence in these men. But as yet, there is limited evidences for this hypothesis. Now I'm going to talk about moral perspective of sex selection abortion. Abortion is a basic right. There is a right not to have a child, not to be pregnant, not to give birth, and not to be a parent. But this right does not extend to being able to choose the type of child one has. Sex selection, abortion, and gender preferences is considered as sexual discrimination and prejudice. This is a form of violence against women and threatens their very existence. Yet, at the same time, this perspective also raises troubling issues for feminists who consider the right to choose an abortion crucial to women's freedom in everyday life and political context. Now, I'm going to talk about what all are the normative ethics guided me to think about why sex selection abortion is immoral. Contractarian, Kantian ethics, and natural law theory guided me to think sex selection abortion is immoral. John Rawls' veil of ignorance approach helped me to think if a person stripped off all their identity, such as gender, culture, religion, identity, ethnicity, social and economic status. Will that person choose sex selection abortion? Absolutely not. And now talk about Kantian ethics, which help me to think that whatever personal gain you get from sex selection abortion, it is always immoral to kill a fetus based on sex, which is always unjust and unfair. And natural law theory helped me to think that actions are right if they fulfill their human nature. Sex selection abortion prevents the fetus from fulfilling its human nature, so it is always immoral to kill a fetus based on their sex. Now I'm going to talk about some of the questions from the case study. The first question is, are there any circumstances in which sex selection abortion is morally justified? If so, what are they? I would contend that I do not think any circumstances in which sex selection abortion is morally justified, because sex selection abortion is prenatal discrimination. Abortion is a basic right, a right not to have one's body invaded against one's will. However, while there is a right to not have a child, not to be pregnant, not to give birth, and not to be a parent, but this right does not extend to being able to choose the type of child one has. The idea that we should love our children whatever they are like and whoever they are is too important and ideal to erode why making children into a type of which we can choose. To reject a child because it is not a child of desired sex for purely social reasons moves too far towards a contractual model of parent child relationship. The claim that these are individual choices which are only affect the particular family is just not true. It is a social issue. It will affect everyone. If it is normal to have expectation and ones which you expect to be met, such as to have a child of a certain sex or with certain traits, this is not individual but social. If abortion for sex selection becomes normal and acceptable, then views of all children will be affected. Children in general will be commodified, as children will become a type of things parents which can choose rather than simply accept. And the second question I'm going to discuss about is, in addition to those mentioned earlier, what sort of harmful results can you anticipate from the practice of allowing sex selection abortion? Are these sufficiently bad to justify outlawing the practice? Um, if we legalize sex selection abortion, women will think lowly of their existence. They feel, they feel low self-esteem and discrimination towards their existence. The female birth ratio will also be drastically impacted. Let's assume the ratio of boys to girls at birth is 100/25. What will happen to men's material life? Let's assume if we still allow sex selection abortion, the ratio might change to 100/0. That will eventually lead to an end of human existence. Women's safety will also become questionable when the ratio of boys to girls changes to 100/25. Girls will be more demanding. Let's consider an example of scarce resources. People will fight to get those resources. That's exactly what happened to women. In the worst cases, women will be forced to marry more than one man to satisfy men's desire and to increase the population to prevent human being from extinction. And now I'm going to talk about what utilitarians and Kantians would say about sex selection abortion. Utilitarian contends that a being is a moral community if it possesses the ability to feel both pleasure and pain. Most non human animals and almost all humans are capable of feeling both pleasure and pain. Nothing else is capable of feeling joy or pain. Therefore, it is always immoral to kill human being. Whether it is a boy or a girl, it is always immoral to kill human being. Utilitarian also contend that if sex selection benefits a greater good for the greater number of people, then utilitarian would tell us to do it. If killing the fetus based on their sex benefits the parent, their family, and society, then utilitarian would say go for it. Because utilitarian claims that the ultimate benefit of morality is to improve well being rather than do justice. But Kantian are opposed to this view. Kant would contend that no matter how much personal gain such action bring, they are wrong because they are unfair and unjust. I stand for Kantian's view in this case of a sex selection abortion because no matter what personal benefit you gain from sex selection abortion, it is always immoral to kill a fetus based on their sex. Conclusion. Now, let's consider the example of dowry system in India. Young girls' parents need to save enough money for their young girl's dowry. Let's think about parents who can afford it. Parents who choose sex selection abortions are not made by their autonomous decision. It is made by societal and cultural coercion. Some parents who eternally love their daughter lend money from others for their daughter's dowry to marry them off. Eventually, their parents will end up attempting suicide due to unbearable debts. There are many parents who sacrifice their own life for their daughters. It is best to address sex selection abortion at the heart of the problem. Now, I want to share about my personal experience. I'm an Indian. I was born and brought up in a low class Indian family. I have three siblings. I have two sisters and one brother. In total, my parents have three daughters and one son. So, so financially, my parents have to take care of all of our living expenses, food, medical care and our education. On top of that, my parents have to save up enough money for three of their daughters for their dowry. When we struggle to survive every day, even for food, from where will they get money to marry their daughter off? I personally saw how much struggle my parents have gone through financially and mentally since they married me off. They lent money and married me off, hoping I will be happy. But in the truth, I was extremely hurt to see my parents struggle due to debt. So the problem arises from the society and culture. Because of the society, women are forced to choose sex selection abortion. Merely enforcing the law disallows determination without addressing the source of abortion could simply shift the problem to more cases of infanticide or slower death by longer term neglect. While it is possible that legal change can help to drive social change, legal change alone in practice has not stopped sex selection um, or reduced it effectively. And legal change alone will not address the heart of the issue, and in fact, um, may further limit women's autonomy. Without addressing the heart of the issue, that is, without mitigating against the discrimination and oppression of women, sex selection and other detrimental practices will continue to be performed. If women's oppression is removed, women will have the opportunity to make freer autonomous choices about whether to reproduce women. And thank you for listening to my video.